back to the skiff. With this whole Iran situation, I have a go-to guy, my bomber guy, and that would be Colonel Rob Maness of the Rob Maness Show. And I'm going to bring him in now and talk about what's going on, because we like to bring you the sources that matter. So, Rob, thank you for joining this morning. I appreciate it. Short notice.
Hey, good morning.
Could you tell people what's kind of going on behind the scenes in an unclassified way? The president may want to deploy military action, obviously using air power. What's happening behind the scenes, in your opinion?
Yeah, it's a tough target set when you're trying to do a decapitation strike, because you have to go after the Ayatollah himself, but you have to go down 2 or 3 layers below and get each and every one of those to get the message across that you're done. And it's a tough target set. I would imagine that everybody was anticipating something last night. Usually that means that the deception plan worked well. When it doesn't happen. But that's what they're doing right now, is trying to figure out the proper targeting and those kind of things. The other thing that's going on, though, I think, is some negotiation behind the scenes. Saudi Arabia and Qatar, it's being reported anyway that they have asked the president to give the Iranian government an opportunity to see what will happen. But really, the leadership's got to step down, and we need to move forward with a free democracy in that country. Not we, but the Iranian people. That's what they're clamoring for, and the Iranian people are ready to do that. But in the meantime, I'm hearing more than 10,000 protesters have been killed now. And that's a low number. On the low side of what I'm hearing about, it was about 3,000 yesterday morning from the sources that I have that have people inside the country. And it's just one of those things that's going to continue to escalate. But the protests have not stopped. The only thing that stopped is their outside communication has been slowed down to just a dribble, because the government's turned off the internet for the most part, and they're jamming Starlink and those kind of things.
So the president came out this morning and said, well, they're not going to hang anybody, so we're going to step back. I don't know. He's a master at disinformation, or whatever the correct terminology is, diversion. He said that last time they struck Iran, then he hit that night. So what do you think? Look, there's obviously a major, as you and I know and talked about, a major uprising inside the country with the youth just don't have a future, and they're tired of this crap. But there's also some instigators, don't you think, to try to make it violent or make it more violent than it is? Have you heard anything about that?
You mean
our intelligence services in there trying to keep the riots going?
Well, the NCRI's I'm not sure what to call it, their armed service or what, the MEK is the only organization, the resistance organization, that's really on the ground in large numbers, that's organized. And they are behind most of these protests, I believe, and continuing them going. And the reason that they're doing that is because they've got to have a vast amount of momentum before it becomes a full revolution. And they really have a stated goal of the Iranian people, supporting the Iranian people that want to do this by themselves. They don't really want, the folks that are in the country don't really want the United States of America to be involved in a military way. Although I'm sure they would appreciate it if the president knocked out the Ayatollah and his top leadership rings. But they're not calling for that, from what I can see. Now, there are some on the outside that are calling for that, on the neocon crowd. And those kind of things. But, I think the president will use as much restraint for as long as he can before he resorts to that, and would prefer to see us not to have to do that. So, there are people on the ground. The MEK organization, which I know a lot of people have problems with, are the only resistance organization there in large enough numbers to do this, and that's what they're doing. They were involved in 2022 with the women's uprising that occurred there, and they're behind this too.
Interesting. Well, we'll monitor that, and I may have you back down the road. But I think there's a lot of false flags also against the MEK. There was like a van that drove through some people, and it really wasn't MEK. I think we were talking about that on your show. I mean, kind of,
Yeah.
trying to make them look violent outside the U.S. And so anyway,
Yeah, I'm going to have Ali Reza, the deputy director of the NCRI
mhm.
U.S. representative's office, on my show for the first half of the show today,
Oh, great.
to give us an update on what he knows. I mean, that's where a lot of my information comes from inside the
Yep,
country.
yep, yep. We
Yeah.
we have similar connections. Want to so real quick, where do people find that show while we're on it?
The Rob Maness show is on all of my social medias. Most people watch it on X,
Hmm.
at Rob Maness, and you can find it on Rumble, YouTube, the Rob Maness show,
Hmm.
World YouTube.
So to switch gears, I was pleasantly surprised after this trip with Hegseth that I came away very optimistic that the administration really has its act together in restarting our manufacturing and doing it in a way that is innovative and fast and not as expensive and on budget and supporting American workers, American talent, American manufacturing, and just really promoting our own innovation in the country. Have you heard much about that, or do you have thoughts on that?
Yeah, we're tracking on it. I think we're doing very well. I'm not sure exactly where you went, which manufacturing industries you went to
I
with
went
him, but
to it was in LA with Divergent, Rocket Lab, and Castellium.
so drone, missile type
Yeah,
technology,
yeah.
those kinds, I think we're doing very well at. The
Mhm.
big long pole in the tent is shipbuilding, though,
Yes,
Todd. I think we talked
yes.
about that on my show. And I know I'm an Air Force guy, but I am a Navy War College graduate back when it was a
Yeah.
real war college before it went woke. And I've been advocating along with John Conrad's probably the biggest
Yep.
advocate, Conrad with a K,
Mhm.
Sal is there, and it's shipbuilding beyond just the gray holes. It's
Mhm.
we've got to have massive amounts of sea lift capability available, plus manufacturing ability. If we ever, God forbid, get into a major war with a country like China and need to control the Pacific, like we did in World War II, we have to have a vast manufacturing capability in civilian life
Mhm.
that's able to ramp up to be able to replace ships and transition over from sea lift ships to things like battleships or aircraft carriers quickly,
Mhm.
and those kind of things. So, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. Our oil tanker fleet is minuscule compared to what we would need to really fight a long term war in the Pacific and be able to control that. Same thing with air bases,
Mhm.
and those kind of things. So, but to get back to your question about manufacturing, I'm pleased with a lot of these areas like drone technology,
Mhm.
missile technology. I'm pleased that the president has announced the Trump class battleship, which is not your grandpa's battleship. So don't go all weak kneed on people and whining about it. It's not a target. It's actually going to make targets
Mhm.
out of a lot of Chinese ships which outnumber our Navy, their combat Navy outnumbers our Navy now. I mean, whether the technology piece of it and capability piece of it is debatable or not, but they've got 3 aircraft carriers in the water. They've launched their equivalent of the F-35 off of an aircraft carrier with the electromagnetic launch system now, and we haven't been able to do that yet. They built the first drone only aircraft carrier, and they're about to get that out, and they're practicing with their battle groups in the Pacific, and have been all the way down as close to Guam with one of their carrier battle groups as they were maneuvering around there, and they're being more and more aggressive in the South China Sea, all the way down to the territorial waters of the Philippine Islands, and in trying to intimidate the Filipinos. So we've got a lot of work to do in that regard, not just in ships, but in other means of
Yeah.
manufacturing too. We got to be able to ramp up manufacturing to be able to resupply things like JDAM bombs
Yep.
and those kind of things. And guess what? You need to get the JDAM bombs to the air bases. It's not airplanes, folks. Our airlift doesn't have that kind of capability to move large numbers of heavy lift type materials like that. It's all on ships, and we don't have enough, and we can't build enough fast enough right now. So that's the real long pole in the tent. Secretary Phelan's got a big job, but it's going to take an all hands on deck and across the board effort, especially from the industries, the civilian industries, to come up with new tech and new methodologies to get this done faster.
Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
A warm welcome here at the National Press Club. Welcome to the journalists, welcome to the Embraer team, and welcome to the other guests that we have here. We're going to announce, and as some of you guessed it right when they came in, the first E2 order by an American operator. And that operator is Avello. We believe this is really a strategic shift to unlock profitability for the customer. I'm very pleased that we have Andrew Levy here as the CEO of Avello, and I'm very pleased to give the stage to share a little bit more about what Avello is going to do with the E2 195. Thank you very much.
Couldn't be more excited to be here as part of this historic announcement. We have such a great cultural fit as companies, so we're very, very excited to be Embraer's newest customer. We launched our airline in April of 21, and our target is focusing on small secondary airports of large metro areas. We've carried over 8 million customers since we started on 63,000 flights. And we've done all these things with 1,200 of the greatest crew members I could ever imagine having, and many of them are here with me today. This is the right airplane for us. It's going to open up opportunities for us that no other aircraft can serve. The best thing about the airplane, of course, is you will not find a middle seat on this airplane. It doesn't exist. We won't have any to offer. It's going to be the best cabin in the United States, and we're so excited about that. This is going to elevate our experience to the highest level, and we think our customers are absolutely going to love the airplane.
So you mentioned John Conrad, our colleague, fantastic guy. You know, I've with him in the Pentagon, and I love his quote. Well, you know, we're seizing all these ghost tankers. It's just less ships we have to build.
So because we've only got like 11 of those things.
Yeah.
Oil tankers, and only a few of them are national security tankers. The one that got rammed by the Russian captain ship in off of Scotland last year was one of the few. It was on its way to the Middle East to deliver fuel for our jets and stuff.
Wow.
You know, you can't fly bombers and fighters out in the Pacific from no matter how many airfields you have without fuel and bombs and missiles. So all that stuff comes on ships, man.
So true. I just had I wanted to respond. There was a comment that the MEK is an Islamic Marxist terrorist group. That info op has been going on for years. I mean, and they've resurrected it. I mean, they're coming after because somebody wants the Shah in power again, the kingdom. I think people need to be aware that is an information operation that has long legs against the Iranian resistance. So I would encourage people to read my book on the Iranian resistance if you want to know the truth on those people that you and I both know very well. Anything else?
Well, folks, you know, I was 17 when all this thing with the mullahs started, the Ayatollah Khomeini and the hostage crisis and all that, and just to do in the Air Force and everything. So I've been fighting this thing for 47 years, and I grew up around Islamic extremists for a few years when I was a kid growing up. So I'm very familiar with what's going on. One of the things that folks have to remember is that that was really Cold War era stuff, and the narrative about the Islamist Marxism piece. Some of it may be based on the people that founded it, but some of it's also more than likely based in the narrative building that we were doing to oppose the Soviet Union communists, because the view is that the Spec organization was the Soviets' arm going against the Shah, who was obviously allied with the United States. Look, we've got our F-5s, our F-14s, our F-4s, our IHawk missiles. I mean, all of those things came because we were close allies with the Shah, and those kind of things. And the other thing that really bugs me is, maybe bugs me, it's not the right term, but it gives me pause, is when I see people defending the Shah, not Mr. Pahlavi today, the guy that's his son, who was, by the way, a 17-year-old Air Force Academy cadet here in Colorado Springs when all this
Really?
went
I didn't
down.
know that. Wow.
That's where he was at. Yeah,
Oh,
I
no.
just learned that the other day. So I mean, he has said, and on my show today, on the second half of the show, I'm going to have a counter mech person on, who's a Christian Iranian exile, I think is what she is, but she's been in the State Department and the FBI doing counterterrorism advising. And I'm going to show a clip of Mr. Pahlavi where he talks about one of the things I've called for him to do, and that is walk away from monarchy and declare that he's here to help support all the resistance movements and wants to work together with it. And I wrote a long op-ed that I published yesterday morning that I will also use as my monologue today, saying exactly this: unite or die. The MEC and NCRI need to unite with Pahlavi and his team because they both bring different capabilities to the fight. But the MEC is the force that's on the ground in Iran. Mr. Pahlavi does not have the capability. There's no evidence whatsoever that he's got people on the ground organized in Iran that are keeping this protest movement going that fomented up to an all-out revolution internally. That is the MEK and the NTRI that have built that capability over the last 40 years, and they're using that capability to great effect. They just have to keep it going.
That's an interesting point. You know, there's a lot of if these people were Islamic extremists, the government wouldn't have killed 130,000 of them by execution over the last 40 years. Or
yeah, they did.
So these are not from the outside. This is an indigenous group who wants freedom, according to, and you know, and I've spent time with these people. I have, especially in their headquarters in Paris and also in their camp in Albania. These are not. This is a paramilitary force, and they have UCMJ-like rules, but they are not Islamic extremists or terrorists. At least,
yeah. And the other thing that's impressive, though, is the NCRI has spent many years now building a democratic movement. They have a parliament in exile that's elected. The way I understand it, you probably know more about it than I have. If you go to their website and you look at the 10-point plan by Miriam Rajavi, who is the president, I think, of the parliament. She lays it out quite clearly, and it covers everything. It doesn't have the markers of Islamic extremism or Marxism. When I have looked at that and I talked to these folks, and I've been talking to them directly for a little bit over 6 years. And looking at their activities, the markers just aren't there. If they were there in the beginning, that was many years ago.
decades.
And the group was organized to take on the Shah's people. So in the 60s and 70s, they were also fighting Americans. And so the story, you know, some of the stories are based in fact, but I mean, we're like 60 years down the road now. Those people are dead and gone. This group that I'm seeing is all out for democracy. They have a plan, they have a transition plan, and more importantly, they've got the troops on the ground inside the country. But Mr. Pahlavi's done a lot of work on economic reconstruction and economic development that he could bring to the table. If they would combine together, I think you have an unstoppable resistance movement. And if they don't, it's not likely it's going to continue, and it'll fail again, as it has many times.
Well, it's a fact that the only thing the Iranian regime is scared of is the MEK. I mean, that is, they are constantly talking about them. They are executing them. That's the one thing that they tried to bomb the event I was at in Paris. So, you know, they caught the guy with a trunk full of, thermite or whatever.
And I wouldn't be surprised if the Iranians weren't behind the incident out in LA somehow with the people that got violent, especially they tend to plant their agents, their IRGC agents in crowds. They do it internally in the protest and do things like call for the return of the Shah and the monarchy and everything like that. But even Mr. Pahlavi himself, like I said, I'm going to show a clip today where he says, I don't care what form the democracy takes. I just want to help bring it about.
Well, I hope, I care.
Part of the solution.
Yeah, I care about the Iranian people, and I want a free Iran. That's the end game.
And I think he does too.
I don't like the info op against the MEK. I don't. I mean, it's obviously organized. Where were these people for the last 5 years? You know, they didn't even know who the MEK was, and all of a sudden somebody, you know, gave them a check and you know, gave them a script, and they go out and say, oh, they're terrorists. It's just they have no idea. So paying the price, the untold story of the Iranian resistance, you can find their 10-point plan. And I'm not paid, just for the record, I'm not paid by the MEK. So,
I'm not paid by anybody other than
exactly.
World gives me a few $100s a month to pay my my X-Base host is what I use it.
Totally understand. Rob,
I have no
thank
money,
you.
man. You can make donations if you want. There's all kinds of places you can donate to Rob Maness.
Well, tell us about that. Where do people go?
On my Substack page, the Colonel's Brief, you can subscribe. I don't ask for paid subscriptions, but that's one of the ways that we fund our effort. And you can also subscribe to me on X for a couple bucks a month.
Rob, thank you very much. We'll have you back. Glad
Oh, you bet,
for
man.
insight and knowledge. Take care.
Thanks, Todd.